Hello, my name is Jonathan Harris from Worldwide Camera Exchange. Leica Rangefinder Cameras. Leica M3, Leica M2, Leica M4, M42, M4P, M6, M6 TTL, M7, all the way through to the latest M10 and M11 digital cameras. Absolutely fantastically made, beautiful, very expensive cameras. Now, many would argue they're the best cameras ever built. Arguably, yes, but if you're looking to spend money on one of these things, you've really got to understand what it's all about. Now, here's a Leica M6, probably one of the most highly regarded of the film rangefinder cameras. I bought this off a photographer who bought it in 1998, put 2 or 3 films through it, and sold it last week after keeping it in a camera for 20 years. Now, if they're such great cameras, why does that happen? And it's quite a common thing. If you just look on eBay or you look in the window of many Leica dealers, you'll see very, very recent, very clean Leica rangefinder cameras and lenses which have hardly seen any use at all. Why is that? Well, the reason is actually very, very simple. Lots of people buy these cameras for the wrong reasons. Lots of people buy these cameras because they are beautifully made. They do have a fantastic reputation. The Leica brand is so strong. But lots of people buy these without really understanding what they're all about. And if you're thinking about buying a Leica rangefinder camera, whether film or digital, it's really important to understand what makes the camera and to understand these aren't built for everybody. These are niche products. They meet the needs of a small group of photographers, and they meet those needs very, very well. But in many cases, you might be better off with alternatives. Okay, to help you understand more about this, let's just put everything in context. Back in the 1950s, if you're a photographer, you'd be using a big, bulky Rolleiflex, or you'd be using a big, bulky Hasselblad or a press camera. These were very difficult to use, very heavy. They were challenging, to say the least. Then in 1954, this came along, the Leica M Rangefinder system. Now, as a photographer, you might have been using the earlier Leica screw equipment. You might have been using rangefinder equipment made by Nikon or made by Canon. But the Leica M3 got it just right. Very compact, and by standards of the day, very, very easy to use, and of course, very, very high quality. So for a good 6, 7, 8 years, Leica had incredible success with this camera. And then all of a sudden, 1959, this comes along, Nikon F. Now, of course, the Nikon F was one of the very first of the SLR cameras. And in many, many respects, the SLR system, where you're looking through the lens, is far, far better than the rangefinder system, where you're looking through the viewfinder here and the camera is actually seeing through the lens. With the SLR, you can have long lenses, you can have macro lenses. So if you're a sports photographer or if you're a nature photographer, these are absolutely fantastic. And frankly, these aren't much good at all. So these I would describe as the generalist cameras. The SLRs then and the SLRs now meet the needs of a very broad number of people. So the vast majority of photographers today and people buying cameras today, they'll buy Nikon, they'll buy Sony, they'll buy Canon. And those cameras will meet their needs fantastically. But if you are a photojournalist, you don't need big, bulky cameras. If you're a photojournalist, you don't want to be part of the story. If you're a photojournalist, you want to photograph your subject without influencing your subject. With one of these, you can put it up to your eye, click, take a picture, job done. People don't even notice. You don't interact necessarily with your subject. And that's what lots of photographers want. In contrast, you pick up a big SLR, whether it be a 1960 Nikon F or a modern Canon or a modern Nikon. You pick up one of these and start clicking and whirring with a huge, great zoom lens on the front. People look at you. Your subject changes. You're influencing what you're photographing. That isn't necessarily a good thing. So there is still a small group of photographers that do want the rangefinder system. As I said, photojournalists, of course, street photographers, absolutely. If you're a travel photographer and you want something very high quality, very portable and very light, and you want to be able to take something out in the, I don't know, in the ghettos of Brazil without being noticed, then this is an absolutely fantastic camera. So there is still a very small niche that this and the later digital cameras serves. And that's really what you need to understand if you're buying the camera. Okay, so if you're looking to buy a rangefinder camera, whether it be film or digital, I'd recommend two things. Number one, really understand what the camera's about. Understand the camera's strengths and its weaknesses. As I said, if you're a sports photographer, if you're a nature photographer wanting very long lenses, if you take a lot of macro photographs wanting to go very, very close, this is absolutely not the camera for you. If you want autofocus, this isn't the camera for you. These are all manual focus cameras. There's no autofocus on this, not even on the latest digital cameras. If you want a camera that's going to rattle off 20 frames a second, this is definitely not the camera for you. Really look at the spec, really understand what the camera's all about. Now, 9 out of 10 photographers, when they do that, will decide to go for the SLR, and that's a very, very sensible decision. But if you think that the rangefinder camera does meet your needs, if you want the very discreet photography, if you want the very light photography, then yep, fantastic. I then recommend something else. Go and hire one, go and borrow one, because if you're used to an SLR, if you're used to the modern focusing of a modern SLR, you might find the rangefinder system very, very awkward. You look through, you focus using the little focusing tab on the bottom there, and you can see two images. You can see two images that need to coincide to focus. So one image here, another image here comes across. When they coincide, it's in focus. Some people love that, some people absolutely hate it. So I'd strongly recommend hiring one of these, or borrowing one, as I said, just to make sure that you can get on with the way it handles. These are, in many respects, very slow until you get used to them. And lots of people don't give them the time. You have to invest time to get the best out of these cameras. But once you can focus it, once you understand how the metering works, once you understand how the exposures work on the camera, I mean, they're very simple cameras. But once you've got the hang of them, they do work very, very quickly indeed. They almost become part of you. With a modern camera, you look at the back, you press lots of buttons, you set lots of exposure, or lots of modes to get what you want. With this, you do it almost instinctively. A very difficult thing to explain. But if you've used one for a few weeks, if you've tried one out for a while and you think you'll get the hang of it and you're willing to invest the time to get the hang of it, you'll absolutely love it. It'll reward you massively. I hope that's useful. If you have any questions, please stick them in the box below and I will come back to you when I can. I always try to answer all queries if I can. Please subscribe and like, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.